Okay, today we're going to do the equation of a line, and we're going to look at given a point and slope, or looking at it where I'm given two slopes, or 2 points, excuse me, 2 points. Now most teachers use y equals mx plus b, which is the point slope equation of a line, and they use it that way. But I tend to use this formula right here. Y minus y1 equals slope times x minus x1. Where does this come from? It comes from the slope formula, which is slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If I cross multiply, this is over 1, and I cross multiply, I now have y1 or y2 minus y1 equals slope x2 minus x1. So I just multiplied the slope times the difference of the x's and 1 times the difference of the y's. Since we're only dealing with 1 point, we're not dealing with 2 points, I'm only dealing with 1 point. I'm going to take out those 2's because it's just 1 point, x1 and y1. And now that's how we get the equation that I'm going to work with today. So let's look at this problem where we're looking at the equation of a line. I wanted to go through point 4, negative 5 with slope negative 9/4. So my formula again is y minus y1 equals slope x minus x1, where here is my x1 value, here is my y1 value, and here's my slope. I'm going to plug it into my equation. So y minus a negative 5 equals negative 9/4 x minus 4. Clean this up a little bit. Y plus 5 minus a negative is a positive, so that's y plus 5 equals, now I can do my distributive property, negative 9/4 x minus a negative, and negative 9/4 times 4 is actually negative 9. Now, clean this up again, minus a negative, that turns out to be plus. So now I can subtract 5 from both sides. Y equals negative 9/4 x. Subtract the 5, so plus 4. So what does that mean? I have a line that crosses the y-axis at 4 and has a slope of negative 9/4. So at 4, I could go down 9 units and write 4 units, and I would hit another point on that line. Let's look at this one. So I have again, y minus y1 equals slope times x minus x1. Plug in, here's your x1, y1 value, and here's your slope. So this is going to be y minus 3 equals a negative 1/2 x minus a negative 4. And that's what I always do, minus a negative, because minus a negative is a positive, so that would make it a plus. One distributive property, y minus 3 equals negative 1/2 x. Negative times a positive is a negative, and 1/2 4 is 2. I'm going to add 3 to both sides, add 3 here, add 3 here, so y now is a negative 1/2 x plus 3. What does that mean? It means that if I have a graph over here, I can go to 1, 2, 3. I can go to the y-intercept, 3, go down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2. And then I can draw my line, and that will be my equation of the line. Here I have a special slope. It's called undefined. And if you remember what undefined is saying, it's saying that the x value or the x values would have been 0, the difference of the x. So basically it's saying the slope that the fraction that defines this slope, this fraction that defines the slope, the rise over run, the denominator happens to be 0. Okay? That's what it's telling me. Well, when I have the equation of a line and the denominator is 0, I can't plug that into a formula. I can't put it in for n because that fraction does not exist. So this is a special case. What this is it is an equation of a line that goes through 1, negative 1. So if you go through 1, down 1, it goes through this point, 1, negative 1. But it has a slope that's undefined. So the slope itself is going to be going straight up and down. Well, what's the equation of that line? It's where it's crossing the x value right there. So basically, I'm going to take the x part of the point. That's the point at which it's crossing the x value. So my equation happens to be x equals 1. There doesn't cross the y value, so I'm not going to have a y variable in the equation. What's really neat about the equation of a line, if there's both an x and a y variable in the equation, it means it's crossing the x-axis and it's going to cross the y-axis. So in this case, it'll cross the x, it'll cross the y. Here, it crosses the x, it crosses the y. But here, it is not a vertical line, cannot cross the y value or the y-axis. So since it's not going to cross the y-axis, I don't have a y variable in the equation. So it has to be x, just x, equals, and then whatever your x value is in your point, that now is the equation of the line. And this is a special case. Okay, now I have 2 points. So the first thing when I do the equation of a line, I need slope and I need a point because that's what the formula says when I'm solving it. Y minus y1 equals slope times x minus x1. It tells me I need 1 point and I need slope. So I'm going to find slope first. So slope, remember, is the change in my y's over the change in my x's. Oops, that's a 2. Okay, so I'm going to say negative 6 minus 8 over the x's would be 1 minus a negative 1. So that's going to be a negative 14 over 2, which is negative 7. Well, that looks bad, but that's okay. That's my slope. That's awful big, but it's still slope. Now, I have my slope, and now I need a point. Does it matter which point? No. I'm going to pick this point. I'm going to use this slope, and now that's going to be the equation of my line. So y minus a negative 6 equals negative 7 times x minus 1. Plug it into my equation. One distributive property, y plus 6 equals negative 7x. Negative times a negative is plus 7. And now I'm going to subtract 6. So y equals negative 7x plus 1. And that is the equation of my line. One more. Got to find slope first. So slope is going to be the change in the y's, negative 3 minus a negative 1 over the change in the x's, negative 6 minus a negative 8. So that's going to be negative 2 over 2, which happens to be negative over a positive is a negative. 2 over 2 is 1. There's my slope. Now I've got to pick a point. Does it matter which point? No. Last time I picked the first point, this time I'm going to pick this point. So there's my slope, here's my point, y minus a -1 equals slope x minus a -8. One distributive property, y plus 1 equals -1x minus 8. Subtract 1 from both sides, y equals -1x minus 9. That's now the equation of my line. Hope this helped. Talk to you later. Have a great day.